So my portfolio right now, just so that everybody is very, very clear, is at a $342,000, 256 balance. That's under my Coinbase account. And then I've got a Robinhood account that is currently sitting at $18,932. The combination of that, 18,932 plus the Coinbase of 342,256, we're looking at $361,188. If I am taking that 361,188 and I'm subtracting out my $240,000 initial investment, I'm looking at roughly a $121,000 gain, most of which is so far just this year. So we're 3.5 months into the year. I'm looking at $121,000 in my pocket. If I divide that out by the $240,000 in my initial investment, I'm right at a 50%, 50.49% ROI on my current investment. I look at that and say, well, what would that do? What would that same money do if I were to put it into real estate, right? And I think there's some very simple math that we can contemplate here. Again, I'm looking at the $150,000 to $250,000 purchase price range. I find that cash on cash returns tend to be higher when you're shopping for less expensive real estate. When you start to get more expensive, it becomes tricky unless you're short-term renting it, which becomes an active income stream, obviously. So from a passive long-term buy and hold, put a long-term tenant into the house type of standpoint, on a $250,000 purchase price on the high end of that, just to be conservative here, I would need $50,000 obviously as a down payment. Okay. Now, let's say that I'm pulling, call it a $500 per month net cash flow position. That's after PITI, that's after management, that's after maintenance is factored in. I'm looking at roughly $6,000 per year in net cash flow that I'm missing out on by investing in a non-income producing asset. And I have to look at that and consider it. Furthermore, another downside to cryptos and Bitcoin is that I cannot get a mortgage to buy Bitcoin. I cannot buy $250,000 worth of Bitcoin with only $50,000 out of my own pocket. $50,000 out of my pocket gets me exactly $50,000 worth of Bitcoin the day I buy it. And I think that's a real disadvantage relative to say real estate, right? Well, if I look at the real estate aspect of this and I'm looking at, say, a growth rate of, call it even 10%, which has not happened, even in these red hot, historically high real estate markets that we're looking at now, 8 or 9% is unusually high. What is the average real estate rate of return on an index? Do you have any idea what the average is at this point? Don't they usually say about 3%?
3% is a kind of the rule of thumb. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so if we were to go outrageously high and call it 10, I mean, what? I mean, a 5% rate would be $12,500 increase, right, over the course of that 1 year period, along with the $6,000 in rental income. So we're looking at about $18,500 in overall returns throughout the year. Putting that into the original $50,000 investment, right, out of pocket, we're looking at a 37% return. Well, here
your
we are.
Been what so far?
My return right now is 50.4%. But if you were to go in and just Google search average rate of return from Bitcoin specifically for the last 10 years straight, to my knowledge, that number is 200% or greater. So at this particular stage of where Bitcoin is, it's very difficult to justify directing my attention and my resources towards the long-term buy and hold real estate net worth investment. So long-term net worth is where my short-term net cash flow has to end up. So at the end of the day, guys, I'm looking at this and saying, holy smokes, long-term buy and hold real estate can't even hold a candle to the historic results that have been coming from Bitcoin for the last decade. And even though there's this really scary daily volatility that takes place, the long-term highs keep getting higher and higher, and the short-term lows keep getting higher and higher. It is scary, folks. For those of you that are, again, too weak to be an investor into this space, I don't blame you. Look at this just today, Michael. So this morning, 9:56 a.m., $347,000 in my Coinbase portfolio. 8:38 a.m., 346,400. 7:48, 342,000. 6:45, 341. 6:33, 340. 5:39 a.m., 334,000. Literally from 5:39 a.m. this morning. No, not quite that high. We went from 334 to 9:56 a.m. of 347. So it's a $13,000 swing in a 4-hour period of time. It sort of feels like you're just sitting at a roulette table, and that is tough to handle sometimes, man. So I only invest what you can comfortably afford, but I think you bring up the greatest points out there in that I don't have to be the expert to know that Elon is surrounding himself with experts before he's going out and plopping $1.5 billion of Tesla's money, shareholder dollars, into Bitcoin, and he has to then answer for that down the road. And I asked somebody recently, why do you think Elon did that? Well, because he's rich. That was the response. I said, it's not his money. It's not his money. So I don't have to be the expert to follow that example. Or you've got Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategies, famously now known as one of the most bullish institutional investors into Bitcoin at somewhere like a $4 billion portfolio at this point. Last I had heard, Elon had made close to what he generated through Tesla sales already in his Bitcoin returns as a buyer at 33,000 per token. This is where things are heading, friends. And if you listen to the arguments by some of the folks in the links that we'll put in the description below, you'll continue to hear the argument that the institutions have to follow. So imagine when Amazon is buying billions, imagine when Facebook is buying billions, imagine when Apple is buying billions. We've got all of these other big banks that are leaning towards it now. I mean, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase Bank, was complaining about Bitcoin even just a year ago, acting as if it was one of the worst things he could do. I think Mark Cuban at one point said, between a banana and Bitcoin, I'd rather have the banana. So it's,
Warren Buffett's another guy out there really downplaying all crypto, across all crypto, and he's obviously one of the biggest investors in the world. I mean, that guy just prints money with his investment strategies, and he's still down on it, even with what's going on right now. So there's some people that are going to be bears against it regardless. Obviously, you're bullish. There's a lot of people that are bullish out there right now, but there are, people that are totally against it, and maybe they're going to have that, aha moment where they ultimately play a position in it, and maybe they just stick by their guns and never do it, and either regret it down the road, or they had the foresight to not get involved in it. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, and that's true. And so, again, I want to just take one step back into the imminency of a $500,000 Bitcoin. We'll leave it at that. When you compare all of these different features, all of the different properties that make Bitcoin popular, and then we compare the market cap of Bitcoin, which right now, inside Coinbase, I open up my Bitcoin data here, and what do we find? Open up the Bitcoin token, and it says market cap is right now at 1 trillion. 1 trillion market cap. Okay, 1 trillion. Gold's market cap is 9 trillion, folks. Okay. Look at the history of gold over the last 10 years. Look at the history of Bitcoin over the last 10 years. Look at the history of real estate over the last 10 years. Make your decision according to the data. If the market cap of gold is at 9 trillion, then Bitcoin has to improve by 9x market cap just to reach the same valuation as gold currently is, and all of the properties of Bitcoin appear to be superior to that of gold, which means that 9 times a $55,000 current valuation puts us at a $495,000 total coin value, which, by the way, if we double or triple or 10x the market cap of Bitcoin to gold, that's where you're going to start to see million, 5 million, 100 mil, $10 million coins, which is where some of us speculate that things could go. So without the education of people much smarter than myself, I really wouldn't have any perspective about this whatsoever. These arguments just make sense to me. You'll hear things from the Winklevoss twins, which are very early adopters of cryptocurrencies in general. Full transparency, I own 5 different coins, and we're going to talk more about crypto on future videos. And Michael will have interviews with people that, again, are much smarter than myself, so that you guys can ask your own questions. Go ahead and submit some of those down below as well. Let us know what your position is.